Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening on the other side of the world. Welcome to Beyond the Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from New Orleans. So, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind all of the logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Does primarily horror and Halloween, but really is a master at doing anything you want. So check him out. Today we welcome back Sterling Moon. We are picking up where we left off for part 2 of our spirit communication show, which of course covered her book, The Little Book of Spirit Communication by Llewellyn, and it was jam-packed with amazing info. But she's got a new tarot deck coming out. Very exciting. Looks wild. But what we thought we would also do is sort of delve into divination. So many people are curious about it, and there's many various ways of doing it. Sometimes you get yourself into trouble, sometimes not. Some people really thrive with it, but how do you know what you're really communicating with? So we're going to get into that and so much more. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming our special guest, Sterling Moon. Hello, I think I'm lagging.
Hey, no, that's okay. I was trying to figure out if it was me. I was like having a little panic moment over here, but
no, it's all me. It's all me. I didn't even realize I was.
Well, it's so good to see you again, Michelle.
And you as well. You as well. So exciting news. You've got a deck coming out.
I do.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that before we get into the show? I'm just going to put it up if I may.
Oh my gosh, I would love to. So, I created what I believe is the first spirit board in deck form. So I have been a tarot reader since 1995. I started, a friend's big sister gave me a tarot deck when I was 15 years old. And so I don't think there's anything that feels more natural for me than a deck of cards in my hands. And yes, this is going to be, the box has evolved a little bit. We have gold guild now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be so exciting. But this is the prototype that I created last year. I wanted to see if this was just something that was just like a cool idea, but wouldn't be very functional. And so I worked with one of my longtime students. Her name is Latina Lucero, and she's a medium and does really cool, like spirit-led artwork. And so we had these screen printed on posters by a local screen printer. We also got these really cool altar cloths made as well.
Wow.
And so I started out by hand cutting a bunch of decks, and I gave them to a group of attendees. They're all folks who have studied mediumship with me for at least 7 weeks. Some of them have been studying with me for years. Yeah. And we were all together for a retreat that I hold. It used to be just once a year, and now we're doing multiples, but it's called Beyond the Veil, where we just get together for like 72 hours and talk to ghosts and have a seance. And I gave them each a copy, and I said, please let me know what you think. And by the end of that weekend, I knew something we'd stumbled upon something really special. And so I did a Kickstarter a couple of months ago. It was successfully funded. Folks can still come in as a late backer for at least a few more weeks. And they should hopefully be shipping in everybody's hands by October. So it's just been really cool to see how well it works and how different it is from tarot. So
that was going to be my next question. What sets it aside from standard tarot?
Yes. So there's no archetypes, because it has all of the basic things of like, well, I mean, you're very familiar with spirit boards. Yeah. And so we've got yes, no, maybe, letters A through Z, and then the numbers 0 through 10. Oh, and of course, hello and goodbye. You have to have hello and goodbye.
Right.
And I found that when I'm doing mediumship, sometimes like I'll just be like, who am I talking to? And sometimes you can get initials. Sometimes it'll spell out words. Sometimes we've played a little bit with speaking with spirits that aren't necessarily those of the human dead, like more extraterrestrial
Oh, yeah.
spirits, which I
Yeah.
know is something that you're passionate about,
Yeah.
and definitely gotten some weird codes that end up being things that you can like that have some relevance. Like I got the numbers of an aircraft once that
Wow.
like and it was like a plane.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole other discussion.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and also too, it's been interesting as like using them as clarifiers for tarot readings. So tarot is so archetypal, and if you
Mhm.
keep getting this emperor or empress or king of swords or king of wands, and you're like, okay, but who, what? And then being able
Yeah.
to pull letters. And one of the things that I found that really works with this is if you are in that good kind of trance-like receiving channeling state,
Mhm.
and you pull a card and you just go with the because there'll be something that just pops into your mind.
Right.
And if you go with that, at first I was like, this is stupid. This is going to
Right.
be so dumb. And I started doing live or little like mini reads on Instagram. And so
Yes.
totally cold. I just wanted to see if it would work. And I'm like, this is dumb. Like this is not going to work. I'm going to
Yeah.
I'm going to look like a fool. And
Right.
then people were coming back and saying, "Oh my god, those are my grandma's initials." Or those like I know exactly what that means. And so that
Yeah.
was pretty cool.
That is cool. It's nice validation, and I think for beginners, um, they might find it a little easier to use. But how do you break away, Sterling, from that? Because it is like the talking board style. How do you break away from the I guess the stigma of, but it's a talking board. Are you inviting something in? Which we'll get into in the show, but how do you get away from that? How does this differ?
Well, it doesn't. And I guess that's the thing is it's the reframing. And
Mhm.
so it's well, and I think that we might have talked about this last time. Talking boards have a spirit because there has been so much fear that's, and especially the branded talking board. I mean,
Yes.
Ouija, like
Yes, yes.
there is like an aggregore that's been built up around that name and that particular board. And so, in some ways, I do feel like that the board does have a spirit of its own that can get a little, it can get a
It
little wild and
yes,
crazy. But at
yes.
the end of the day, it's also just a tool. And so it's more about what do you do to prepare yourself? How do you open the space?
Mhm,
What are your goals? Are you being focused with who you're wanting to speak to or the
mhm,
spirits in what particular space?
mhm.
Are you being focused or are you just like throwing open the door to your house and letting anybody come in? And
Yes.
then most importantly, how are you closing your session? And that's
That's a
key.
big one because
That's
people
a
don't
big
actually think about doing a proper opening or closing.
I feel like that's more important. I think you can, and I talk to all the people. I talk to people all the time who are so funny. They'll be like, "Well, I'm not going to open that door," and I'm like, "You
Yeah,
practice?" I was like, "You got an ancestor altar?" Well, yeah. Do
yeah,
you practice magic? Well, yeah. Do you read tarot? Or oracle cards? Well, yeah. I'm like, baby, that door has been open. That door has been
yeah.
open.
Because
So
it's about intention, right? That's sort of where we left off with, investigations and things like that. I think it's about more about the intention of communication. It doesn't matter what you use, whether you're looking. I mean, come on, we have this as technology. It's built in with, you know, your own
mhm,
voice recorder, for instance. Now that's an
mhm.
intention of communication. It's got all these communication apps on it. There's
Yeah.
loaded with intention for
Yeah.
communication, and then you're just getting onto the traditional anything. You know?
And I mean, there's intention, but there's also like the extra layer of, what's the ground? Because I mean, my intention could be I'm going to sit down with a talking board and I only want to speak with my grandma. But if I just sit down and I get all willy nilly with it, doesn't matter what my intention is. It's also
Yeah.
what are the other like steps that I put into place. I know I'm preaching to the choir there, but
No, 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 no.
hopefully
You're preaching to all the listeners and everything else, so pretend I know nothing.
that's a hard thing to do. That is a hard
That's
thing to do. So
okay. I'm pretty sure we're of like mind with a lot of this stuff, so just
yeah.
go wild, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, getting into, divination for no, it's not I mean, so much even just for spirit communication. I mean, when you're looking at your cards, you have people who every day want to sit down with their own cards to say,
Mhm.
how's my day going to go? Or, I have a job interview today. How's that going to go? Can they use your deck to do something for themselves as well?
Oh. Oh, absolutely. I think it's, for some people, some of it is going to depend on the practitioner,
Hmm.
because I think for some folks, I mean, again, I love the archetypes of tarot. I love the
Yeah.
story that's in there. And
Yeah.
so again, nothing feels more comfortable for me than like a deck of tarot cards in my hand. For
Yeah.
some people though, they're incredibly limiting, and some people get kind of stuck with the archetypes. And so
Mm.
I think that for some folks, like for example, it's so funny. I'm kind of like, I have the cards in front of me and I'm just kind of messing with them just because I
Yeah.
always do that. And they're even
Yeah.
showing me like kind of what I can talk about first.
Yeah.
So the first things that I'm seeing are cards 1 to 10,
Right.
and 1, 10, and then we have maybe in the middle. And
Oh.
so for some, so one of the things that I'm hearing is maybe, if you have somebody that numerology is really important to you. I have those of us who are, if you're a tarot reader, you're going to know exactly what I mean. We kind of have tarot numerology that
Mhm.
goes on, really operates from 1 to 10, although we have meanings that go with the major arcana cards as well. But when you kind of start to notice the patterns that go with those, those numbers 1 through 10, they sometimes look a little different with like playing card readings and things like that. So if I were going into a job interview and I was sitting down with this and maybe I pulled a 10, I would look at that as good, but I'd also look at a 5 as good. In cartomancy, fives are a very lucky, very magical number.
Yes.
And so for people that kind of need a little bit more of that flexibility, this deck is definitely a good fit. Or it
No,
might
I
be.
I love that. I think it allows you to maybe consider venturing and learning a little bit about numerology. I've had people, through the years that like just use playing cards who I've met through the years. And
Mhm.
I remember just playing like crib. This is something like a few years back,
Mhm.
my significant others like, just play some crib. I'm like, yeah, okay, why not? Anyway, and I kept pulling because you say who goes first, and then it's always the king of diamonds. Didn't think twice about it. But then I thought, I'm just gonna look this up. And it was like a money card. And sure enough, I sold my house like a month later.
I love that.
I
That's
know.
so
I'm like,
good.
not bad. Because I don't read. I don't read like tarot or any. My
Oh,
mother was an avid reader and probably had about 200 different decks because she just loved the artwork and
yeah.
everything, and I always get the odd message, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, you know,
Well, and I think that's the
'cause
cool thing about like learning spirit communication. And because I mean, divination, okay, I'm going to get a little
different.
heady here.
No, you
Uh,
go.
so divination is, you don't, one of the things that's cool is that once you start to really understand how divination works for you, you don't need any tools. You
Mhm.
can literally get to a point where you know how to check in with yourself. You can register, okay, what's going on with me, get to that calm and neutral state. I mean, one of my favorite like easy divination methods is going on an omen walk,
Mm.
going out and just like, doing that, getting into that grounded state and going and literally checking to see which way the wind is blowing. Because like the
Right.
directions the air is traveling can often carry meanings. Paying attention to what the birds and animals that you see are doing, paying attention to just those gut feelings, that claircognizance that we all get.
Mm.
And in that way, I don't know, there's so many ways that you can learn to do divination with either nothing or anything. That's one of my favorite things to practice and get
Yeah.
into.
Do you think it's mostly because human beings need something physical to look at?
I do think it's like a reinforcement. I think it gives
Yeah.
us something. It's like an anchor. I think
Yeah.
where a lot of us make the mistake, and I know I certainly did.
Mhm.
Sometimes we think that the magic is in our tools,
Yes.
and instead of remembering that it's us using it as
Mm.
it's a tool. Now, that's not to say that they don't have personalities. I
Yeah.
think every tarot reader, every like diviner that I know has like a system that it's like, oh, this is the mean, like this is my mean deck. This is my nice deck. This is
Yeah.
the one that will tell me what I don't want to hear, even
Mhm.
like, so,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
so funny. That's so
Mhm.
funny. I never would have thought that.
Mhm. Yeah, and I've definitely got some decks. Like my very first deck it's blunt, which I needed when I was first, learning,
Hmm.
but it's still blunt. Sometimes I wish it were a little less blunt, so I don't use it as much as I used to.
Right. That's so funny, honestly. So, people get curious, like before we
Yeah.
get into the, paranormal side of things per
Yeah.
se. There are different tools, not just with decks, but ruins.
Mhm.
That seems to be making a resurgence. I've had rune stones of different types for ages,
Yeah.
and recently I've just seen popping up. People are offering classes on runes, and
Yeah.
people are playing around with it. So, what are your thoughts on that? Have you used them?
I've used them a little bit. I'm not very good with them,
Okay.
but I have some students, well, I mean peers, students slash peers. Like I have got one woman that I know named Runa Troy. She's a fellow author, and man, she is so good with those. There's some folks that have oh gosh, there's another person, Siri Pluoff, I believe is their name, and they have some work and I think a book about like queering the runes. And so, like, kind of looking at the runes with these modern, perspectives.
Mhm.
I don't, yeah, I think they've probably never gone out of fashion, but you're right. That does seem like there is a little bit of a resurgence. But I love, even though I don't work with the runes, I do love casting. Like, it's just, I always get so excited because are you in New Orleans or you just have kind of a home base in New
It's
Orleans?
home base, New Orleans, and I manage the network there. 'Cause
That's
it
right.
well, the podcast division, it's an FM, right? But
Okay.
I yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, you're like in the hub of, I mean, bone casting and charm casting, and also, I mean,
Mhm.
shell readings. Like I,
Yes,
I just
yes.
love those casting traditions. Are so when you see somebody that is their thing, it's amazing. It's amazing to see.
Well, hence the old term "roll the bones," right?
Yeah, roll the boats. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
roll the
Oh my
bones.
gosh.
Yeah, that's an old one, and I think it just goes back, like, literally beyond centuries. I think that's something that's been going on, for ancient cultures.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, I find it all very fascinating. I'm surprised I don't do readings or things. I've always used my intuition more along the lines for investigations or just helping people
Mhm.
focusing that way.
Yeah.
Only because I think I mentioned it the last time, I had just like a bad experience. I used to do it all the time. When I was younger, when I was 18, I mentioned, my best friend coming up to me and saying, I want to know if my boyfriend's cheating on me. I'm your girl. Damn straight he is. you know, Anyway, yeah, my sister. Anyway,
Yes.
because we've been friends for eons, and
Yeah.
she tried to take her life, and that made me realize the responsibility
Yes.
that came with that. And a lot of times it's not even, I mean, you can be giving the right information,
Yeah.
but not factoring in maybe like, proper delivery for one.
I'm so glad. I mean, first of all, I'm so sorry that you had that experience. I mean,
Oh, thank
that is, I
you.
think, and I guess that's one of the things too that I've been a professional reader since 2013, and this has been my full-time job since 2022.
Yeah.
My backstory is that I spent 20 years as an advocate for victims and survivors of crime. And so being with people, learning how to be with people in some of the hardest situations
Yeah.
anyone can be in, you learn a lot about needing to choose your words carefully. Now, there's
Mm.
some advocates that,
Yes.
not everybody learns that. I feel like that is something that I have gotten pretty good at is
Etiquette.
yeah, and also just learn like read the
Read the
room, my
room.
friend.
Yeah.
And but it is true that I mean sometimes there's been times that I've done readings for people where we're in the process of the reading and I'm like, this person, like something is wrong, but I'm delicately trying to broach the topic.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget doing a reading for someone that I knew pretty well. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, they are not okay. And I'm trying to kind of just,
Yeah.
like put out those little offerings of like opening the door of like, hey, if there's something on your mind, we
Mhm.
can talk about this. And they never backed away from, I've never been better. And even saying in that, I've never, and I'm like, okay,
So
so sometimes,
robotic, like
yeah,
Sybil type of robotic.
yeah, I'm like, okay, we're going into a Stepford Wives kind of territory. But if
Yeah.
somebody can't hear it, they can't hear
Yeah.
it. And then sometimes there's also, I mean, there have been times I've seen readings where it's pretty obvious, like, oh, there is infidelity or lying, or, and again, it's like you kind of just have to, like, in some ways, you sometimes do have to get really good about being honest, but not being so honest that you are
Mhm.
scaring someone, because you
Yeah.
never want somebody to feel worse after their reading than they did when they came in. You can deliver the hardest of readings in a way that still offers empowerment. Not
Mhm.
everybody knows how to do that, though. And it just, I think some of it just takes the ability to read the room and some just good old fashioned emotional
Mm.
intelligence.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
To me, I'm
I,
a you're my bestie. I'll tell you whatever you want that's going on. But this leads me to this question.
yeah.
People go for readings because they want to know, but do they
Mhm.
really want to know?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, and
You know?
and there's also, and I do want to just say too that I think because this was your bestie, I tell my
Yeah.
students all the time, the hardest people to read for are the people that are closest to you and
Yeah.
yourself when you are struggling to be objective. I can't read for my husband because I have way too many opinions about his life. My best
Mhm.
friends, it is very difficult for me to read for them because I have opinions. And
Mhm.
so there are certain things where I have my, like, short list of readers that I go to when I'm like, oh, there's no way that I can see my own stuff clearly. So I
Yeah.
also think too, that's a tough one, that's a tough situation that you
Yeah.
are in. And you're right. Sometimes people want to know, but also then there's the whole free will thing. When someone comes in,
Yeah.
you're here,
Yeah.
we're looking at maybe what's happening based on this current moment in time.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, sometimes you want to know, but do you really want to know? And that's a tricky one. That
Yeah,
is a tricky thing to
I I
navigate.
I know for me it was all in the delivery because we always joked around with each other, we always and it's not like it's the first time, she would just say, "Oh, I've got this
Yeah.
going on, what do you think?" And I'd go, "Blah, blah, blah," but with
Yeah.
this, it was just kind of like I think it was something that I spent a long time just waiting for her to ask the question
Yes.
because and it just kinda went, "Yeah," and there was that part of me that was just like, "You know this."
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So, it was definitely in the delivery, which, boy, it was an experience that really humbled me and brought me
Yeah.
down and just went, "Okay,
Yeah.
you're 18 years old, don't just either make a decision to do it and do it right or don't do it at all." I chose
Yeah.
really not to not, like, do it at all. People have asked me for readings like, "Oh, no, I don't do that," but I can refer you to a whole bunch of really great people who will give you
Yeah.
really good readings, and, so aside from just, like, the families or the people I have worked with on really malevolent hauntings, I've just gotten away from it. Even my kids have learned, "Don't just ask," but then when it's your mom, you're kinda like, "Uh-huh, sure," right?
Sure.
Even with my
Sure.
mom, "Sure, you're just trying to direct me to not do that." Right?
God, I can't accept a reading from my mother, and I can't do readings from my mother because, again, like, there's too many
Yeah,
opinions. There's too many opinions in the mix.
it's true, it
So,
is because you don't really know, and so my kids now have just taken they're all adults, mind you, but they've all taken, "Okay, so who do you think I should go to for a reading?"
that's
And
probably well, and that also is, like, protective for you, because do you wanna know everything in your adult kids' that's the other thing
no,
too, is it's like
yeah,
sometimes my neighbors, so, okay, I have, like, a really cute, like, old-fashioned neighborhood where everybody knows each other, we have block
yeah,
parties, like, I've never lived in a place like this.
yeah,
And of course it gets out, "Oh, you know what Sterling's doing for work these days." And the number of times that they have asked me, like, the ladies in the neighborhood, they're like, "Wouldn't it be fun if we just got together and you read our cards?" And I'm like, "I want you to really think about what you're asking."
yeah,
Because I'm like, I don't want to know I don't, you have to
yeah,
be, you have to be prepared for me to really intimately know your business. And I'm not
yeah.
sure. And once I finally broke it down, they quit asking.
Ah, see? Yeah,
I'm
because
relieved. I'm
that,
relieved.
when you're saying, "I will know your business," all of a sudden, that's a game changer.
It is.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So it is it is really interesting, but that was my experience why I just chose to be like, "Nope." I couldn't read a deck if you threw it in front of me and said, "Okay, go." Or, and here's a crash course. I'd be like, because I think
Yeah.
there's that block, and I just look at it. It's not like I don't know what they all mean, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, I think it's an energy thing. I really think I would be just throwing it all off. So, but I
You
don't
know,
I don't need
and
a
that's
deck
okay.
though.
And we're not like, we don't have to like do everything. I think
Yeah,
that's like like, you don't have to,
yeah.
we do not have to do everything. And so
Mhm.
sounds like you definitely have a really important niche. And so if divination isn't a part
Yeah,
of that, I think that's okay.
I've
Formal divination.
yeah, well, I've never needed it. I've just sometimes you just get spirits who are just like, you're talking to somebody and it's just like, say this, say that. But I'm not saying nothing. They're like, just say it. It's like, But then I have to basically eventually say, okay, there's a message, would you like to receive it? I realized because I knew I
Yes.
had at the time I had so many friends in Lilydale, and this is how you do things, and I
Yeah.
so I would ask, okay, do you want to receive this? Are you prepared to whatever it was? And that's not even something I like to do, but it's not worth being followed and harassed by
Yes.
the spirit individual, as
I
you know,
mean,
right?
you can always tell them like back off in strong language, but yeah, it's always funny to me. I mean, you definitely
Yeah.
clearly don't have this challenge, but I'm always amazed sometimes by folks who will sometimes they have like poor boundaries with spirit. Like it's like thinking that you don't get to have boundaries with spirits,
Mhm.
and I'm like, if a living person was getting up in your business and like, hey, do this, do this, do this, you'd like think about what you would probably tell that living person, or that what I hope you would.
Yeah. Yeah, this
Yeah,
was an elderly man, and he was so sweet, and I think I try to tell myself the generation too, like
yeah,
like, the communication in life was different, which, when you're thinking about EVPs, for example, because,
yeah,
we've both done investigations. So when
yeah.
you're communicating with spirits, how many people forget to factor in the era of the place they're at, and they're not going to the spirit individual are not necessarily going to understand the lingo.
Oh my gosh, yes. And language barriers, like that sometimes, like that one is
Yeah.
still like always, I'm like, oh, we literally don't like we have a literal language barrier here too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. I would always try to do when I did events, I say, "Okay, we're going to do recordings here. Please factor in mind,
yeah,
this is the era, these are the individuals that are here,
yeah.
try to bear in mind, lots of garbage
Yeah.
over here. Here's maybe some good questions to ask." And the people in the group would often have the best experiences because they were taught how to do it. And then you have those that I've been a paranormal investigator for 20 years, and I get it. But I'd like to think that sometimes we just continue to evolve. I always say I'm always on a journey of evolution and learning.
Yeah.
I will never know it all, and television will make sure that you're pretty much stigmatized anyway. If it's like,
Oh
so,
my gosh.
right? So, so that's
Well,
that.
and it's also, I always like to think of it too, is it's like be a dazzle. It goes back to emotional intelligence. Just because you're speaking with spirits of the dead or something else doesn't mean that you don't like be a good conversationalist.
Yeah.
And I always I keep thinking about I had an event that was at the Stanley Hotel in the Lodge Library, which is like the
Yeah.
lodge is like a little Stanley. It's where the bachelors used to come and stay back in the day.
Yeah.
And which it was mainly men
Yeah.
who would come and stay there, and they were unmarried men.
Uh-oh.
And so,
Yeah.
they were all very everybody was very respectful, but
Mhm.
one of the reasons why they were very respectful was it was very obvious that Mrs. Stanley, Flora Stanley, still makes the rounds, and she seemed to show up a lot, and she would show up through piano music. And and that was what she played. She was an incredible pianist. But it was funny too, because we were doing Estes method spirit box sessions
Yeah.
we always like to have two people,
Mhm.
under stuck and trying to see if there's maybe some back and forth between the two. And it was so funny because one of the questions that I always encourage my groups to ask is, what advice would you offer to people that are living at this, moment in time? And this was November of 2024. And all of the spirits, they kept offering information. They wanted to talk politics because we just had an election, and they wanted to talk finance. They wanted to talk money, like make sure you watch your money. And like, it was like a bunch of it was kind of a bunch of men that they were just wanting to give. We were pretty much all women, give a
Yeah.
bunch of gals some financial advice. It was
That's
very
so
cute.
funny. That's so funny. I was going to ask you what your favorite method of spirit communication is, or divination.
Oh gosh, that's such a good question.
'Cause there are many, right?
There's so many. If I'm just doing, I'm a mental medium. And so I love just dropping in and, getting into say whether it's a seance with one other person, just on my own, with a big
Yeah.
group. I love mental mediumship. And if I'm going to have a tool, I love my dowsing rods. If I'm
Ah,
going to have gadgets, I do think spirit boxes are so fun with a group.
I have
They're
lots of fun
so
with those. Yeah,
Oh,
they're
they're
one of my
so
favorite.
fun.
Yeah,
Balloons and lightweight things that can be
yeah,
moved are really fun.
yeah.
Oh gosh. I
It's
have terrible. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I would say, see, I'm glad you mentioned that because it's a balloon. It's still a method of communicating,
Yes.
right?
hmm Yeah, go. Can you spin? Everybody has to be really still. Like you do have to be really, and everybody has
Yeah.
to own it. If you move, you have to be willing to say, sorry, everyone. But
I
there's
breathe.
nothing better than when everybody's just sitting so still.
Yeah,
And yeah, can somebody move that balloon and then you see it spin?
yeah,
Ooh,
yeah,
that's a good question. What is
yeah.
mental mediumship? Do
Mhm.
you mind if I answer that one?
That's That was for you. Yep.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Astrid. So there's three types of mediumship generally, right? So back in the day, back in the height of spiritualism, for example, you had a lot of people that were a combination usually of trance mediums and physical mediums. And
Mhm.
so, this is also at a period of time where women didn't have a lot of rights. Most mediums, public
Mhm.
mediums at the time, were women. And so you often had mediums that they would, fall into a trance and they would channel a spirit guide. Now, it would often get real weird, real racist, often
Mhm.
because you would have these folks that would be channeling, they'd be speaking in accents, and just it got pretty icky by today's standards.
Yeah.
But you often had there was also a lot of fraud, and you did have a lot of women that maybe weren't authentic mediums but were using the opportunity of, oh, I can say that I'm channeling my spirit guide brother so
Mm.
and say things that they couldn't say in in
Mhm.
in life.
Mhm.
But trance mediums are people who their ego, their thinking mind goes into the back seat, and spirit takes the wheel. In more in this century, we had Hans Holzer, which we all love
Mhm.
the stories
Yeah.
of Hans
Mhm.
Holzer, right?
Yeah.
He, love him or hate him, he was entertaining. And
Yes.
he had his trance mediums that he worked with, where they often needed his help to kind of come back to consciousness.
Yes.
Physical mediums, there was a lot of fraud with this, but where we had mediums that said they were exuding ectoplasm, or they could levitate objects,
Mm.
and then it turns out that they had, it
Yeah,
was
they
all a
rigged it.
big, yeah, they
Yeah.
rigged it. But there
Yeah.
are some mediums, and I actually think you see this a lot in places that, people that believe they are experiencing poltergeist activity, where
Mhm.
there's the noisy ghost activity. Sometimes, that follows the person wherever they go. Doors are opening and closing. You can hear things move, things apport. Sometimes I wonder if that's also what modern physical mediumship looks like, but mental mediumship is what most of us do. So when you are maybe in a light trance and a spirit is like communicating with you, and you get those mental images through clairvoyance, you get the sounds in your mind, clairaudience. So all those clair senses, those psychic senses, that's mental mediumship. And the very first person who kind of brought that to the forefront was a medium named Leonora Piper. And she is someone who, man, she was a good person. She did a lot of sessions with psychical researchers. The one that she ended up disappearing without a trace after her last one. One of her last sessions that she did. Oh, she's I had read somewhere that in one of her last seances, she came out of a trance to find lacerations in her mouth. And I was like, what in the world? I knew at this point that when she was towards the end of her career, there were psychical researchers, pretty much all men, that were so convinced that there was no way she could be authentic. I mean, they had like private investigators that were following her. Like, I mean, really creepy stuff. You know, she was a single mom. Her husband had died. But I ended up reading recently, it was documented in a book by a woman named Deborah Blum, that I can't remember the name of this researcher. He was trying to get her out of her trance, because she was a trance medium, but she did mental mediumship. She didn't cause things to happen physically. Yeah. He poured essence of camphor in her mouth, perfume, and detergent, trying to get her to come out of her trance. And I'm like that. And those stories are not. What was that?
Trying to poison the woman, for God's sake.
You know, it was really abusive and creepy and weird. And that happened a lot during that doesn't get talked about a lot in like the Psi research documentation, but there's a lot of hidden stories like that I'm kind of on a little bit of a kick of finding those, because it makes me really angry.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get that as well. I think of this woman, of course, now you would look at the fact like, wow, knowing what I know now, just as a researcher, it kind of makes you wonder, disappeared without a trace, maybe with a 3-letter agency who's thinking this is the real deal and maybe it's time to explore this. I'm just saying, because they've done these kind of projects.
Just saying. So anyway, Astrid, I kind of went off the topic a little bit of what it's receiving spirit messages through your mind, through your clairsenses. Right. That's the short answer, which I'm never good at giving.
I love that. So how do you know who you're really speaking to in any kind of communication? Because this is how people get in trouble. And I've known some really gifted people who've gotten themselves in trouble because they didn't even know it was a pretty fine line, you know?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to say what I think, and then I would love to hear what you think. Because I think that some of it is okay, first, there's like those spirits that you know them and they know you. Like, I know what my grandmother feels like. I know my dad. My haunted freaking house. I know the spirit in the basements. Yeah. And the weird, grumpy one that's always turning the lights off and on in the back of the house, you know, like I know them. However, I also think that, and this is a hard thing to navigate, because I do think you always have to have one foot in and one foot out. I get really nervous when I encounter mediums who are like so certain. Oh, well, this is so-and-so. Oh, this is such and such. Oh, this is, and I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? Like, so I always am willing to play devil's advocate with myself. And I always kind of think about it in the same way. I think if you have good online safety, you know, there's that great like thing that we kind of say in our communities, right? Of we're talking to spirits is kind of like chatting with strangers in like online. Right. You know, you can get pretty comfortable and get a pretty good sense of who they are. There's always a chance that, you know, who you're talking to could be different than you think they are. So I don't know. I think it's but the verification is the thing that, like, when you are able to get messages where it's like the other person is saying, "Oh, there's no way you could have known that," or only that person knows. I don't
Yeah.
really like the term evidential mediumship because like, I'm an evidential medium. Sometimes it feels like it's kind of one-upsmanship, and I'm like, whatever. If you're good at your job, you or good at what you're doing, you will provide some kind of evidence to like
Mhm.
validate whatever it is that you're saying, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that verification, one foot in, one foot out, always being willing to play devil's advocate.
Mhm.
There's
Yeah.
always a chance you can be punked. And I think we've all been punked.
Oh,
At
God,
least,
yeah.
I mean, at least I know I have. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Well, it's like I realistically, any things that I've done, like I get growled at a lot. So, I'm in those
Mhm.
kind of, that was always my area of work, was working with people. But
Yeah.
even when, like, I remember sitting down because when my uncle passed away, before he passed away, years ago now, he basically knew I had this incredible contraption, which was I had a ghost box built that was very similar to the Frank's box, and I do own a Frank's box, that was
Yes.
gifted to
So
me.
cool.
I had met Frank towards the end of his life,
It's amazing.
and we talked about the ghost box. He goes, "Everybody thought I built it for ghosts." He goes, "I built it to talk to
For
aliens."
aliens.
He
Yeah.
did, and I have
Yeah.
had alien communication and such. But anyway, even if you're just trying, like my uncle was there, and
Mhm.
they're in their 70s, and him and his other half, and my mom was sitting there, and he goes, "I want to talk to my father because I want to try to figure out how to save my life." And I was just like, first of all, it broke my heart because he had a pretty rare type of cancer. And I went, okay,
Yeah.
what's the first thing that comes through this box with this long, horrific growl? And then the whole room went silent. I'm just like, nobody's talking to you. You're not invited to the party. Let's move on. That's all I said. And it was weird. It was weird. But I got that a lot. So moving forward, I have come to learn that there, aside from reptilians, that grays apparently can growl.
Oh.
I had a
Oh,
guest
that's
come on telling me that one time. I'm like, seriously,
oh, that's interesting.
right? So I'm just kind of like, all right, that's something new. See, it's that continued
Yeah.
evolution of learning,
Mhm.
but then it makes you wonder, even in a situation like that, putting
Yeah.
people aside, it's like,
Yeah.
who are you communicating with? Because I get really sassy and salty sometimes. I'm just like, all right, I've had enough of this nonsense. Move along, But
Yeah.
when you hear these voices that come out in your loved one's name, and for some people,
Yeah.
it gets so emotional, like they know. I've had people, come to our when we had the haunted house, and they'd want to communicate with a loved one, and we'd be like, "Oh, okay, why not?" And I mean, they know, and the feeling of emotion,
Yeah.
they know. But can something still not mimic that?
You know, yes. I mean, that's like a tricky thing, right? And like
Yeah.
that's where I think the safety and also like being grounded and knowing when to stop,
Mhm.
because that is, and I don't know. I also sometimes wonder if, because I always say, like, to my clients that come to me, like, you're more important. You're like,
Yeah.
yes, I'm here and I'm being helpful, but you're just as, if not more important than, like, your role is very important to this whole situation,
Yes.
because I often feel like I'm coming in on a conversation that's already in progress. And
Yes.
so it can be, and I do think that, like, people are so much more intuitive than they let themselves believe. And so
Mhm.
sometimes, like, all they need to do is show up to like your haunted house and say, I'd like to communicate with this person. And it like gives their like body, their spirit, their mind permission to like accept the message that was trying to come through anyway. But
Mhm.
I always do wonder too, are there lurkers? Kind of like the ones that are like, oh, I see that this person, maybe there's a vulnerability there that I can exploit. And then sometimes I wonder if it's like a both and, where yes, they have the authentic experience, but especially somebody that is inexperienced, doesn't have great boundaries, and is like kind of really desperate for continued conversation, you can get lost in the sauce pretty easy with this work. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I have met people who they flat out told me, I just want to do this every weekend. I would way rather hang out with the like the dead than the living. And that's usually like, especially when I have like a good relationship with like a student who brings that, I'm like, okay, we need to talk about that, because that's how
Yeah.
you can get in trouble, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, because you let your guard down after a while. And when we're talking with,
Yeah.
about boards, for example, because these are theories that I've tested just with boards, or just having, 'cause you don't
Yeah.
really need it. I mean, I've watched, I've done table tipping. I've just been able to watch glass go back and forth with nothing, ashtrays, like all kinds of crazy stuff. But,
Yeah.
but when you're dealing with just that, okay, just these items or the situations, how much is your own, you know what I mean? Is it your own mind? Because if
Yeah.
you're asking a question, you know the answer, and so does that being, that
Mhm.
ethereal within, who's behind the board going, "Oh, that's the answer," and they give it to you. How
And
do
that
you
is, I feel
know?
like, oh, that is like the $1,000,000 question too, because when you start
Yeah.
getting into egregores and the spirits
Yeah.
that we create,
Yeah.
or what do we, or maybe are we able to tap into, any spirit that we want to connect with, but then there's something within us that manifests the proof, the confirmation. I mean, that gets real heady. That's like sometimes where I lose people, because we
Yeah.
always want a simple answer, right? Like we want oh, it's a ghost, and it's a ghost of this, and they lived here, and the reason that they're still, and I think things are just way freaking weirder. Way weird. I'm trying so hard to not swear because I get real excited and then I start dropping F bombs. Like my students have to check a box that says you have to be comfortable with cursing in
I can
colorful
be a
language.
trucker as well, boy, I've
Oh
learned.
my God. I'm like trying to remember, I'm like, we are live. But yeah, it is. And I think too, like when you start getting into like the theories around high strangeness, when you start looking at the places where there's, experiencer encounters, UFO sightings, cryptid sightings, and then like
All
classic,
blends.
it all starts jumbling together. And then it
Yeah.
makes you, and then our ability to be able to manifest hauntings. I mean, it gets real complicated and also so much more fun. Like there's no answers, but it gets so weird and so cool. I just love it.
Yeah, the whole psychokinesis thing gets a bit crazy, because you can manifest so much. But I mean, we have to remember, when we're opening ourselves up to communication, that you're opening your mind and yourself up to unseen forces that you don't really know
Yeah. Hmm.
in advance
Hmm.
what is waiting. I always say, in my experience, I've come to learn that you have a lot of spirits with hardship, or like you say, the
Yeah.
tricksters or the mimics, they're in the lower realms, and they're it's easy
Yeah.
for them. They want that attention, and they
Yeah.
want that invitation, because if you're dealing with certain types of entities, it's all about the invitation first.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, God, yeah, I don't really even know. I'm like just agreeing with you. I don't even know if I have anything to add to that, because, and I think that that's like the
Yeah.
thing that's hard. I was thinking about this. I was thinking about that this morning. It's been about a year since I had a particular client that had,
Mhm.
I had said, if this is still troubling you in a year, please come back and we're gonna talk some things through.
Mhm.
But I help people who have, do I want to say this here? Yeah, I'm going to just say it, just because it's always my choice what I take on and what I don't. Like the pro bono, that the work that I do a
Yeah.
lot is often with people that have like attachments that I believe,
Yeah.
sometimes there's folks that they kind of have like the drama,
Yeah.
we're like, oh my God. So there's some people where they always have something going on. And I'm like, but I think that when the ones that really break my heart are when someone has been like the number of times I've seen somebody who they've come in and they've been living with something for like 10 years, 15 years. And it often, they're those, I mean, sometimes it's like I've, just a few years, but there's been more than, a handful of times that I've
I
had
met
someone come in
someone
and
50
they're,
years. 50 years.
yes, yes. And it often is like there's like that one defining moment.
Yeah.
Or, I was 18 and I thought it would be cool to work with these invocations that looked really like it's kind of like edgelord stuff, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
or like sometimes, God, I remember this one person who, I mean, I'm pretty sure their mom worked them. They had a very unwell, like mentally unwell
Mhm.
parent that came from a lineage where, they did some workings on their own kid, and it was someone who they've been living with that for 10, 15 years,
Yeah,
and
something
were
like that.
ashamed and thought that that they had. And there is always something, but the one kicker that I like, thinking of the invitation, sometimes that invitation comes through questioning if there's a reason that that spirit is there. Like, what if I send this spirit away and I never figured out why they were here in the first place?
Mhm.
And that those ones break my heart. Those
Yeah.
ones break my heart. I'm sure you've got stories for days.
Oh, yeah, I mean, decades of them, but,
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that stands out to me are those who have been under oppression for so long.
Mhm.
They're made to feel like, "Look, I'm psychic." Well, you're only psychic because 'cause you've got something nattering at you like a little bird behind you giving you answers, and then it stops. They're afraid to lose that. They're made to feel special. "I'm the only one that loves you."
Yes.
I've seen it so many times with young
Yeah.
teens especially,
Yeah.
and they feel a sense like they go into this, they know that you want it gone because you're self-harming or you're doing all kinds
Yeah.
of things, but they go into this cycle of grieving, and they sometimes bring something else in that way, like many people who grieve, wanting that message from a loved one, for example.
Yeah.
Same idea.
Yeah. That is, well, what would you, because I'm curious, I'm like, all I'm just agreeing with you, because I'm like, yeah, that's a tricky one. And I think that's the other thing too, of like,
Mm.
if you're going to play around with this, if you're going to explore, not even play around, if you're going to
Mm,
explore these abilities,
mhm,
the ability to be grounded, to know when to stop, to know why you're doing it, to like
mhm,
recognize your own stuff, uh,
mhm.
to
Yeah,
be willing to learn the other skills of like, how are you going to learn? Like, how, are you willing to like take the steps to take care of your energetic hygiene, to like,
mhm.
make sure you're living. I've seen
Yeah,
so many people who do this work that they, develop sometimes
yeah,
substance abuse problems
yeah.
or like other like addictions as like an escapism. It's like, are you willing to, you don't have to be a teetotaler, but like, are you willing to make sure you're living a healthy-ish life in order, like, you got to stay healthy if you want to do this
You
work. And,
Mhm.
and I think those are a lot of things that we don't think about sometimes when we first jump in. But what are things that you wish you had known, like at the beginning of your journey, that you know now?
Mm. Well, it's tough because I come from a family of
Mhm.
experiencers. No,
Yeah.
I mean, not just on a paranormal level, but on an
Yeah.
extraterrestrial level. I've
Yeah.
had some cryptid stuff, but you realize how I wish I'd known how everything actually joins together. Now, knowing what I know, even with the paranormal things that were going on, I question, was it extraterrestrial? Because we're generational, like, right?
Yeah.
So and not
Yeah.
all bad experiences, but early days, I'm going through things. I'm a kid who can see everything. I have strong abilities, and
Yeah.
then something comes in that feels malevolent, yet highly protective. And I came to find out through lineage that this certain being was back, and we're going back like thousands of years ago now. When I go back to that, the exact same
Yeah.
being. So, I wish I had known then what I know now,
Yeah.
because it would be so much different. Even the way I help people now is
Yeah.
considerably different than how it was then. Like, I stopped investigating a long time ago with
Yeah.
working with families and people because I already knew just from same old, same old. The only thing that changes is the backdrop and the players, like the people. I just go in and I know by what I'm being told exactly, and I know the questions to ask and dealing with the hard questions like psychological assessments, things like that, permission from doctors,
Yeah.
things like that. But you
Yeah.
you start to realize that just help just help them because it's something. If it's not really something, something's making them believe it's something, so you have to help on one level or the other.
Yes.
patience. The family I worked with the longest took 5 years. I've
Yes.
had other go months, a year. You just
Yeah.
don't give up, you know?
I think that's one of the things that always surprises folks with I help folks in a different capacity with I'm very good at like helping. I like to think of myself as like a couples counselor for people in their houses. And
Yeah.
so cuz sometimes like folks will come in and they're like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god, this thing is happening." And then we get into it and it's like, "Okay, but let's break it down." Like, okay, that scent of tobacco and perfume and that sense that there's an older woman and she's going into your toddler's room at night. Yeah, that's freaky and I wouldn't be okay with that either. But then
Mm.
when you start like piecing out the other things that are happening, it's you end up finding out like, oh, this is like a
Yeah.
grandmotherly energy that's going to check in on your baby so you
Yeah.
can get some. So I mean sometimes there's like those moments where it's like, let's reframe this and set some boundaries. So I always like to
Yes.
joke I'm like a couples counselor.
Yeah.
um but I think but whether it's attachments or if it's maybe those haunts that are not as nice. I
Yes.
think that's the other thing too is like the time. I think there's that expectation of, oh, you're going to go in and you're going to wave around your bundle of over harvested sage you got at Walmart and say, this
Yeah.
house is clean. And it's like, actually, that's not usually how it works. It took time to get to this point and it's going to take time. And
It
there's
it
some
does.
places that I mean, have you experienced? I can think of places where I don't know if they're ever going to be a peaceful, like there's never going to be like rest for either that family and that place. Have you experienced places where it's like this is beyond, like
Mhm.
this is yeah. Those are
Yeah.
always a doozy.
They are for sure, and, those are the ones that take the longest only
Yeah,
because of the fact that, eventually
yeah,
we get them
yeah,
cleared.
yeah.
There are always ways, and,
Mhm.
I think when you're working with other ethereals who
Yeah,
are going in and having that look around for you and you know
yeah.
what's going on, working
Mhm.
with the mindset of the families it's been an educational thing because I've educated people. I said, "I won't be here forever, and if this ever happens to you again, you're not going to need me." And I make sure that when things are done, they never need me again because they've been educated, empowered, power given back to them, and I teach them to take it back, and they do. I used to have a year and a half waiting list, and I would work with them online or over the
Yeah.
phone, and when I was able to come up, I'd say, "Okay, I'm ready to go," because I'll only do if it's serious, I'll do one at a time. That's it.
Mhm.
They have all my attention 24/7, you know?
Yeah.
And they're like, "No, we did it. You taught us everything changed." I'm like, "Yeah,
That's
exactly."
amazing.
But,
That's
you know
yeah, the empowerment piece.
yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, are there places like that? For sure, there are ancient places like that. I've traveled different parts of the world.
Mhm.
I always want to stay in a place that's very old, as old as I could find it for the area,
Mhm.
haunted preferably. But you have history in certain parts of the world that, it's unlike here. The energies are unlike here, and you just can't. Would I like to go and some places you don't even want to because they're just the haunted forest. Like going into Romania, going is one of the best experiences I've ever had, which is crazy. But it's
Oh,
like, but you wouldn't want to change it. You probably couldn't,
oh,
but would you
yeah.
want to?
Oh my gosh, that is going into a haunted forest in Romania is my dream. That's where my dad's side of the family is from.
Go!
And
It's fun. It's
so it's so
fun.
whenever I'm
Yeah.
at my ancestor altar and I'm like, I want to go. I feel like I always hear my great grandparents yelling. They're like, "There's a reason we left." Our family is from a
It's
very very poor. It's still a very
yeah,
it's Pachica,
yeah,
um, but yeah, I'm like,
yeah,
oh my God, someday I was like, I'm still going someday.
yeah.
Someday I'm still gonna go.
It is wild, and when you do, let me know. I will fill you in on, pretty much what to expect because we didn't really know what to
Oh,
expect when we went in, and, the stuff that happened was I mean, they covered it over 2 or 3 different shows, just the being there, what happened
oh,
immediately after at the hotel, and what spanned 2 years for some of the people that were there with me. So
oh, wow.
there's a lot, there's a lot. But you know what? It is a place worthy of its name, and it is, definitely one to be respected.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Ooh.
Yeah. It demands respect and you give it. Because I'm pretty fearless. And at the end of it, there were spirits trying so hard to say, just go, just go, just go, and the growls are coming through this box and things are crazy. Tree lines starting to look like it's folding. This is a hot summer day on a super moon, nothing going on at night. We've been there from day till well into the dark hours. And I just finally went, I can see.
Okay.
Not out of
All right.
fear, but out of respect for the spirits that were fighting so hard to protect us to
Yes.
say go.
Ooh.
See, now you wanna go.
Now I want to go. I mean, nature's wild spirits in nature, in their elements,
Yeah,
in their unadulterated element.
yeah,
I don't think it can get more. There's a
yeah.
reason that we all like love a story about haunted forests, or
Yes,
maybe are terrified by stories.
yes,
I
yes.
feel like a haunted forest is 10 times scary than a
Mm.
haunted house any day.
Oh, it is. I felt completely out of my element, and it's not like I've never been in forests that were active, but I
Mhm.
did feel you're not confined. There's nothing to confine you, and experiences that started from daylight. I mean, I had a nap. I felt great. I just laid in there in the circle. I wanted to feel though what was going on as I wanted to just calm myself down. And I laid there and I just took it in. And I was calm through the whole thing. But I think you need to get a sense of that. So when you're out of your element, you better acknowledge that you're out of your element, and don't go in there guns ablazing thinking you're conquering. There's some places that you just aren't going to conquer anything. You're going to go in, you're going to learn, you're going to be the student, you're going to be eating some humble pie. I got my butt handed to me because I conceded and went, all right, you win.
You
And
know,
I'm
it's
not
so
afraid to say it. It handed me my own ass and I'm there.
Oh my God. It's so funny that you're saying that. Like, even though this is in the United States, like I'm in Colorado, and like Colorado just is very, we've
Yeah,
got, of course,
yeah.
everywhere's haunted, but I feel like we've got a little bit more space, and there's a
Mhm.
little bit, I mean, there's a lot of dark, there's a lot of dark things that have happened here, but there's also, I feel like in terms of when I go to the East Coast, I feel like we have a lot of breathing room here compared to kind of the spiritual energy on the East Coast. And next week, I go to Salem. If once a year, I'll be there a couple times in the next year.
Yeah.
But I feel like I get my butt handed to me every time I go to Salem, because there just isn't. Well, one, I'm going there for the Salem Witchcraft and Folklore Festival, and so it's like you have like a whole bunch of practitioners in a town filled with practitioners. One of our oldest places here.
Yeah,
And I feel like I always get a run for my money. I mean, because I don't think that there is anywhere that isn't
yeah,
haunted in that part of the
yeah,
country. And so
yeah.
it's just so, I mean, this is the year that I'm going in, and I'm trying to, in some ways, it's kind of like that same of like, I'm just accepting that I know that this is going to be wild.
Yeah,
There'll be surprises. There
yeah.
is no rest from the
There
from the
isn't.
spirits
No.
there, and I just need to like go in accepting this.
Yeah, it's not
So,
even just like the witchy spirits. I mean, those are the probably, and I mean, realistically, you're just dealing with healers, and that's a whole other show in itself. And but you're dealing with Puritans.
oh
You're dealing with frame of minds that are very staunch
oh
compared to this day
man.
and age. So they're not understanding some of
Oh,
what it goes back to that lost in translation, and they don't understand what they're seeing. And there's so many folks that go in there and you're there for a witch thing. Last the person you want to communicate politely to is a Puritan who may be just trying to have an understanding of what they're looking at because they're thinking they've just been invaded. you know.
it's one of the things that I learned on my first trip out there. I don't want to say the name of the place I
Yeah.
was, but it was a place that it was outside of Salem. Like, it was kind of in one of the surrounding areas, and it
Yeah.
was like a museum type setting. And I may have had my dowsing rods, and my dead bell. I'm just saying, and
Yeah.
done a little light communication. And I just, I remember kind of like just I could tell I had, there was someone that was chatting with me that felt a little bit more modern. Because again, you get your layers, right? Like you get,
Yeah.
you might have your Puritans, but you also got your, your 70s ghosts and probably your early 2000s ghosts,
Yeah.
and who knows?
Yeah.
But I remember as I was leaving, a branch from like a bramble got me, and it got my hand, and I remember thinking, oh, that's weird, because I didn't really see like I was close to it. I got an infection in my hand that
Mm.
lasted, my God, I think it lasted 2 months. And I
That's
remember it
crazy.
took 2 months to finally
Yeah.
get the last little bit of the thorn out. And as I was getting it out, I was just apologizing the whole time. I was like, I've learned my lesson. I will never do that again. And I will even tell other people to not do that, when I'm
Wow.
there. And
Yeah.
but yeah, so and there's, my God, I feel like I've got stories,
Yeah, go
humble
ahead
pie for
though.
days from
Yeah,
that.
go ahead. I really do think it's a learning curve for sure. So what's the most memorable place that you've been to?
Oh, this is one that I'm not allowed to say the name if
No, that's
I
okay.
also talk about it, that it's haunted. So it was my second year of holding my retreat
Yeah.
for my, I mean, there's kind of like, there's places that I've lived that have been memorable, but this was one where it was just, I think because I was responsible for a group of people, it really, it hits different when you have to be like, I always joke,
Mhm.
I'm mediumship mom. And so when you got to be mediumship mom, like you don't want anything to happen to your charges, right? So this was a place that was in one of our kind of mountain towns in
Mm,
Colorado, and it was a big mansion. And I had
mm,
not stayed in this house personally. I'd gone and visited it. It was beautiful. And this was my second year of holding this retreat. And the day that we all arrive, it was obvious that this place was very unrestful. So we walk in, I'm with my helpers, and there's just hornets everywhere in this big mansion. And I'm like, and again, kind of that looking for like signs and omens. I was like, this feels weird.
mm.
There was one part of the house where we had ladybugs everywhere. That was where I was staying, and that felt very different from the rest of the house. But there were like, so we were like having to try to get these hornets out of the house, and I'm like, this feels
Mm,
very strange. It was just one of those places where time also got really weird. And so we had like weird, we had some of my attendees, for example, one of my attendees on our last day, I hear her, we're all packing up and trying to get out of the house, and I hear her say, where did the door to the basement go? And we're like, honey, there was never a door to the basement. And she's like, no, 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 no. Look, here's the text message I sent to my sister when I got here saying, leave it to me. I just arrived and I found the door to the creepy basement. And so things like that, you'd go into the basement and you'd get confused. We would all kind of like, we were like experimenting with it. You'd go down and you'd kind of forget what you were doing. You'd get kind of spinny. That was a little strange. We had one attendee who she's got a good head on her shoulders, but she was out. Had a little field trip away. We went into town, and she's coming back, and she texts and she says, the driveway to the house isn't here. And we're like, what are you talking about? She's like, I'm following Google Maps. The driveway to the house isn't here. She went back and forth, and on her third time, the driveway to the like the gate was there
that
again.
isn't that crazy? That illusion that they don't want you to see something, they mask
Weird.
it or
And like,
veil it?
or is it like a time slip? So we had a big
Yeah.
seance. That's like kind
Yeah.
of the capstone of our event. And everything just got real weird. I mean, we were hearing footsteps. We're all hearing heavy footsteps that are walking back and forth upstairs while we're all downstairs. There's like a big black mass that's forming in one part of the building. We were all seeing, I thought it was, I've got those tracer lights, and I had just
Yeah.
assumed that it was like a reflection from these tracer lights where there were these blue kind of like flashes that we could all see up in the rafters. And I was like, oh, it's just a reflection but then I realized at the end, wait, no, those are red. And so it just, but the biggest thing with the time was that it felt like the seance lasted forever. It felt like we were in here for 3 hours. We got done 90 minutes, cool 90 minutes.
Missing time, eh?
We were, yeah, literally missing time. And I mean,
Wow.
I could go on and on about this house,
Yeah.
but that was one of those places. And the kicker was, because I had contractual, like kind of like a handshake agreement, but like, I promise I won't go running around saying the name of like, oh
Yeah.
my God, this place is really haunted. And because people
Yeah.
have done that, and it kind of gave the place a bit of a bad reputation. They don't
Right.
want to be known for that.
Yeah.
But I did get home, and I was thinking, I got to come up with something good for my patrons and my Patreon. Maybe I'll tell them a couple stories, just
Yeah.
like in this little container, and I'm writing it out, and all of a sudden I started feeling this burning on my arm. And I looked down, I took a picture of it. I had like just this little series of scratches on my arm, and I was like, okay. And so I just deleted it and was like, okay, I'm not, because I was sharing the name of the place and some of the details, and that is
That's the
no
gist of it.
more shall the two be combined.
It's interesting though how they reach out, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And
Yeah.
I was gone, I was gone from this place, but that was a wild one. That was
Yeah.
also the year that I decided I don't care how much extra it adds to my my expenses. I will no longer bring attendees to a place I haven't stayed at myself.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's tough. I've been in that situation as well, and it is really it is a hard one
mhm,
because you're taking that responsibility for other people, you almost
mhm.
want to make them sign waivers because it falls on you. I made sure when I did events I had insurance for everything.
I have insurance, and I make people sign waivers. So,
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. It's
yeah,
just like I wouldn't even step into not even a public place, but just like a private residence without knowing I had everything behind me, even if I
yeah,
was just helping someone.
yeah.
So what's your best advice? Because aside from awareness, which is one of these things that we're talking about,
Mhm.
how do you set safe limits before starting,
So, oh,
investigations, not just divination, because people get themselves in trouble in investigations or people trying to figure out what's going on in their own homes. So go, go, go.
it's layered. Number one,
Mm,
it's definitely layered. So, for example, like, just to kind of tidy up with like kind of talking about like the group work, like the group adventures that I host,
mhm.
everyone that goes to those has to have gone through a program that I host called Modern Mediums. And actually, for anybody who wants to learn about mediumship, it's coming up. We start September 3rd, but you've got my website on there. And so if this is kind of piquing your interest, so I know that we've had 7 weeks to set a foundation of, so everybody has the same baseline, and we also go through the same, my process for grounding, like discernment, getting to a calm and neutral state, grounding, protection, doing the thing, whether it's, divination, mediumship, magic, whatever, and then releasing and cleansing. Those are like my steps regardless, but sometimes there are some extra layers. It depends, depending on the situation.
Mm,
If I'm going into, so sometimes there are things that I do before I go into it. Like if I'm going into a space and I'm going to be welcoming people in,
mhm,
I always introduce myself to the spirits that are there. I am grounded. I'm protected. I am polite.
mhm,
I state my business.
mhm.
Because I don't go places that are like, scary or hostile. I go to
No.
places that like are like, I go to the cute haunts. Like I like,
Yeah.
usually, except for that
Yeah.
place that I was at the second year.
Yeah,
That one was a little, I thought I was
yeah.
getting a cute haunt. It wasn't a cute haunt. So, we always set like the altar. We have like an altar that is like, with offerings and like peace, again, it's like we're trying to be good guests.
Yeah.
If I'm going into someone's home or I'm helping them, with something that's a little funkier, I think you mentioned you call them ethereal spirits. Like
Yeah.
I got my team. Like
Yeah.
I got my team. I got my home slices that I have on deck
Mhm.
that, I always do divinate. I incorporate divination, on a space. So like, what do I need to know going in? What do I need to know about the space? And so that
Mhm.
kind of also helps to guide, maybe some of the folk magic, remedies that I'm going to be bringing in of like, okay, here's
Mhm.
some things that might help to calm it. I have a couple, well,
Yeah.
folk
Yeah.
magic goes
You
down a
got
whole
your
other thing.
thing. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got my thing.
Got your
But
thing.
for me, there's kind of that basic grounding, like being aware of what I'm bringing in, being responsible for it, grounding, protection. For me, protection is very layered. And when
Mhm.
I'm bringing other people in, I walk them through how to do that. And then if we're doing any group work,
Mhm.
we have our what we do, our protection and grounding that we do individually, and then we have protection and grounding that we do as a group. So
Right.
like as a group, we're a team
Yeah.
and we can hold that barrier.
Yeah.
The favorite evidence that I have that that works is when we were at the Stanley Lodge, and this was again during our seance, and it started to get to the point where things were getting pretty wild. Like it felt like
Yeah.
I also like to just I tell my students like our seances are kind of like a party. Like we're throwing a party.
Mhm.
We have all been to a party where like too many people start to want to come in, but I remember we're all sitting there and we're all kind of like, I think it's getting to the point that we need to start walking it down. And the doors to the room started shaking. And we all just
Wow.
look, you know how it is too when something really wild happens and it kind of doesn't flap you and you all just kind of look at each other and you're like, that's weird. And then you think later, why wasn't I surprised?
It's like that was a thing, wasn't it?
That was the thing. And then you think back on it later and it's like, why wasn't I terrified? It's like,
Yeah.
it's so funny.
Yeah, yeah, it's so
But I
funny.
don't know if
That
I
is
answered your
hilarious.
question. I just am talking.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No, I think the big part of it is just making sure that you're safely ready to go. I like what you say about introducing yourself to spirits. I was the
Yeah.
same. I do a large event. I would walk through because you're building a relationship. It's like if you go there often,
Yeah.
I would walk around the house, it was a castle, so I would say, "Okay, tonight we've got this many people attending this evening's event. This is what you can expect. This is where we will start at this part of the building. We will end up
Yeah.
over here, blah 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 blah." And it went amazing all night. People were getting experiences, and I
Yeah.
think that is the most important thing is building a relationship. There's still people. There's still
Yeah.
people.
There's
So,
still people.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't prepare properly, what are the biggest hidden dangers for divination or walking into a space that you're being disrespectful in?
I mean, I think sometimes you'll get those like those classic, egg on your face moments of being pushed, being
Yeah,
scared, feeling uncomfortable.
yeah,
Sometimes things can just get real. If it's somewhere that you're sleeping, I think that's, where you're probably going to have a bad night. You're going to have the bad dreams or the rude
yeah,
awakenings in
yeah.
the night. Again,
Mhm.
it's just kind of like that adversarial, so especially if you're not polite. I mean, I'm guessing you've had your share of seeing people who are not polite with spirits, and and I feel like that just sometimes it just like escalates things in a way that's no fun. I
Mhm.
will say one of the like maybe not showy ways that people are affected is like their energy drain, just getting
Mhm.
really tired, getting sick.
Mhm.
Um, and also like not feeling like themselves, almost like feel like their moods are really like they're not acting like it's almost like they start picking up the things that are there and just not
Yeah.
acting like themselves.
Yes, yes.
And sometimes too, I think that can kind of like follow you home a little bit. Not to, I mean, I do, spirits can follow you home.
They can.
They
They
can.
can. And sometimes quite innocently, like
Yes.
maybe there's just
Yes.
something about you that reminds them of someone that they knew, or maybe they
Yes.
just want to continue the conversation. It's not always like a menacing reason, you know.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, absolutely.
there's a lot of good reasons for things like that. But I mean,
Mhm.
how do you keep something from following you home?
I mean, in the same way of like going and introducing yourself, making
Yeah.
sure you have a clean clothes. Okay, like our time together is
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to stay here.
Yeah.
Spiritual hygiene. And I do also think too, if you're doing this work regularly, like you do have to make sure that your home is warded. I do think tending to your own spiritual court, whether it's your like ethereal spirits, your
Mm.
ancestors, making sure that because and in the same way that we experience, have experiences with spirits out in the world,
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you've got those protectors that are able to see clearly the things that you can't. And I think your family can be a really important part of that, and your, divine spirits that you work with too.
Yeah.
Keeping your home warded, keeping your home spiritually clean, so it's like, again, it's not, I don't think there's any one silver bullet. It's
Yes.
layered.
Yes.
This work is a lifestyle if you get really into it. It has to be if you're going to stay healthy.
Yes, thank you for that. It actually, that's probably some of the best advice. It's not something that is a tickling fancy. It's something that you live, because when you are in communication with spirit, you're always open. I mean, I can shut down, but
Yeah.
only to a limit. I can't shut down like every single time I want to. I'm
Yeah.
glitching again, so I apologize. But mindset, I think lifestyle change, I've told people who have been in bad situations, with attracting spirits, or people who have been having attachments, it's a lifestyle change. I'll say live, love, laugh, dance, open windows, positive mindset, get into a method of cleansing that works for you. Because when you yell at somebody in that room and have a big argument and walk away, come back 2 hours later, wonder why you're feeling foul, you may want to cleanse that space. So, can we talk quickly about cleansing? Um, because again, intention, power, not just what you're doing, from my
Yeah.
perspective.
So I think that, there's a lot of, we'll go simplest to maybe where it's a little bit more, there's more like room to grow, right?
Okay.
Simplest is keep your home physically clean. Like literally, I mean, and it doesn't, my house is cluttered. I have a kid. I like tchotchkes. I like, it doesn't have to be like pristine, but
Yeah.
keeping your house, like if it feels funky and ugh, literally clean your house, literally
Yeah.
open the windows,
Yeah.
listen to music that is, so the way that I was taught spiritual hygiene, in a magical sense, is that it's a three-step process, whether it's your home, your body,
Yeah.
whatever. It's
Yeah.
you clean out the junk, then you fill up with something positive, and then you protect it, right? And that can be as simple as clean your house with the windows open, close it, listen to your favorite music, and eat your favorite meal, and then imagine that you've got a bubble of golden light that is like around your home, your property, yourself, and like that's great, right?
Yeah.
If you want to get a little bit more involved, there are, I never want to give away my special blends, like,
My special
burning,
blends. Yeah.
oh, just for like, like for
Yeah.
incense, like I love smoke clearing. Frankincense
Yeah.
lifts the vibe of a space so much
Yeah.
that it will push out things that are not in alignment with that.
Yeah.
Floor washes. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you're familiar with down in the South, I'm sure you've probably seen people with the blue anneal, the laundry bluing that
Yeah. Yeah.
you,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you mix that in a big pot of water, and you add it,
Mhm.
a cup at a time, like dilute it in a mop bucket. That's a good
Yeah.
one for, it cleanses, it lifts the energy of your home. Like, so there's ways that you can bring in like floor washes and like colognes and things like Florida water, things like that. Um,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of, great, and learning about your, the people that you come from, learning about your ancestors, learning about the plants that were important to them, getting familiar with what grows around you and incorporating those into how you cleanse your home too.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, there's so
Yeah.
many layers to it, but that first one, anyone can do. Clean your house with the
Right.
windows open,
Yeah.
bring some joy in, imagine something protective, or say a prayer, whatever
Right.
prayer looks like for you.
Right. So,
Yeah.
I agree. Say what you
Yeah.
mean what you say, follow through, intention, power behind the words, intention behind the act. Do it like you mean it.
Do it like you
So,
mean it. Do it like you
exactly.
mean it. Yeah.
So once again, now when is your deck going to be available?
It is, I think we are this close to getting the artwork finalized with the printer. It
Yeah.
should be, to people that have backed the Kickstarter, it should be in their hands by October. I'm hoping it's going to be publicly available for sale by October, by spooky
Wow.
season.
But just in time, I was going to say, just in time for
Yes.
spooky season. I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. Um, Well, as always, it's been like an amazing conversation. I love our
Thank you.
conversations. It's
Me
so nice to
too.
have somebody who's like-minded on
Yeah.
board. Hello, welcome.
Hi.
NSPS TV Paranormal Podcast Show from Central Texas. Just putting
Awesome.
that out there for our audio listeners. So everybody who's tuned in, thank you. It's always so great to see you all here. Tomorrow night, tune in for fellow UPRN host of the Creature Code, Angel Morgan. She's an animal communicator, paranormal investigator, a voice for the ancestrals, as she says. We're going beyond the physical. We're going to explore the mystical world of animals. Whole lot to do with that, and it'll be a whole lot of fun. Thursday night, welcome Jason Thornton as he discusses his book, Why Me? Life Trauma and Alien Encounters with Palladians. And yeah, hybrid situation and really, you know, crazy abduction experiences and star seeds came right after. It's just amazing. Going to be an amazing show. Anyway, thank you all. Thank you again so much, Sterling. So
Thank you.
sterlingmoontarot.com, guys, go check her out. She's got things coming up, including you have another event.
Yes, I've got modern mediums, my class, my retreats get pretty booked up. We're sold out for this year. There's one spot
Wow.
left for next June in Salem, but I do have like a 1 day event that's going to be on Krampusnacht in Denver. And yeah, we're got a spooky haunted mansion, and we're gonna
Ooh,
have a good time. So
spooky haunted mansion. You have
yeah,
me at that
that's called
right there.
Beyond the Veil. Yeah.
Beyond the Veil. I love it. Well, I think when you're out on the East Coast, won't be too far from, well, Massachusetts. These guys might be Maine. America's Stonehenge.
Mm.
America's Stonehenge. It's a thing, and it's
Ooh.
many, many, many acres, 100 acres, I think. It's been in the same family for 50, 60 years. A lot of people film there. A lot of people go there, and paranormal people as well. Yeah, I figured if
Cool.
you're out on the East Coast, yeah, Dennis Stone and his family own it. He's been on the show a couple times at least. And America's Stonehenge. I'm thinking, I never realized it was a thing. But when you said you were going out to the East Coast, I said, gotta check these out.
I
So
will be looking that up like the minute we're done. That's very cool. Thank
yeah.
you.
So thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone. And big thanks to, again, Steve McGinnis. And thank you for tuning in to Beyond the Outer Realm on United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from New Orleans. So good afternoon on this side of the world. Good night on the other. We'll see you tomorrow evening.